Now, we're continuing the topic of increased food prices this week with a focus on local produce. Oftentimes, when we talk about increased prices, the answer is usually to buy more local products. But what is the solution when the local products are also expensive? What is the solution, and can we even ask ourselves why is this taking place? Well, to answer the latter part of that problem is President of the Farmers Association, Pundit Satyanand Maharaj. Pundit, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Hi, good morning, Kimberly, and good morning to your viewers this morning.
Now, Pandit, we have seen a shift. I'd say maybe about April and May, we had some relatively affordable prices for local produce. But now that we're moving into June and July, we're seeing a lot of expensive things. I mean, one of the conversations in the public domain is that melon is now $20 a pound. I mean, how do you respond to this?
Well, it's $20 a pound wholesale. That's the first thing you have to realize, which means it's going to be $25, $30 a pound retail. Um, what has been happening should come as no surprise. This happens perennially. Once we have rains, the arable land goes underwater and food prices go up. It's a supply and demand system. And once there is the demand outstrips supply, obviously with a free market system, it's going to go up. And that's how the markets are run here. We don't have fixed prices for produce. I've been answering this question for quite a while. Every year around this time, we have to answer this question, but the answer remains the same in that you're going to expect high prices. And if you continue to have rains and the lands don't get a chance to dry out and come under cultivation, that is something you're going to have to continue to see and continue to afford. You can't starve, you have to buy it. That's exactly how it works.
But Pandit, I mean, the rainy season is nothing new. We anticipate the rainy season every year. So is there nothing that the farmers can do to kind of prevent this from happening each year?
You know, the farming community is a relatively neglected community. We only remember the farmers when goods become expensive. When it's cheap, when farmers themselves are subsidizing the food on your table because there's a gluttony market, nobody really cares about the farmer. That is a sad reality that we live in. Pandemic has taught us, the pandemic last 2 years, and some change has taught us that we should try to be a little self-sufficient. And those of you who try to grow things from scratch, you will understand how particularly difficult it is to grow one plant, two plants. And imagine you bringing acres under cultivation or hundreds of acres under cultivation. While, yes, the rainy season is an act of God, and we have no control over the rainy season, flooding in most cases is an act of neglect. Neglect by governments, not just this one, but subsequent governments over the years, where systems are not maintained. For instance, in Arangwes, we have a floodgate that allows the water to go out, and we have pumps that pump out the water in times of plenty. These are neglected, so much so that literally hundreds of acres went underwater because someone didn't show up for work. And it's something that's been happening every year. In fact, last week was a 2 year anniversary of flood in Arangwes that took all the cultivatable lands. And it's the worst flood we had seen in something like 30 years. So, yes, while we can't stop the rains, I am sure if enough attention is paid to, enough state resources are used, we can prevent much of the flooding that takes place because of carelessness, because of the lack of maintenance of drainage, the lack of maintenance of water courses, the lack of maintenance of the pumps, the lack of maintenance of. Uh, we have a system where people, if rainfall, they don't come to work, but their job is to come and close the sluice gates so that the water from the swamp doesn't really back or come back into um, the cultivatable lands. That's particular to Arangwes, and I'm sure that other areas in Trinidad have the same kinds of experiences where clogged water courses is probably one of the problems that the farmers experience.
Hmm. And so, Pandit, how does irrigation factor into all of this?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. We have a problem with WASA harassing farmers for pumping what would otherwise be wastewater in the dry season. But we don't see WASA coming to the rescue of anyone in the rainy season when their water that they claim to own floods out anyone. You see, the situation is the same every single year. If you do not have uh, a proper drainage and a proper water supply in the dry season, proper drainage in the rainy season, we are going to continue to experience this. And I can predict, um, I might be a pundit, but I can predict for years to come, we'll have the same problem because we've not seen meaningful and purposeful action taken to prevent these floodings, which in 2022 are preventable with the kind of technology and the kind of engineering and civil engineering that we see taking place in the world. We don't have to invent the wheel, you know. We just
Hmm.
have to get the wheel and put it on, and we can bring these lands under cultivation. The problem is that you because the market has free force. Um, you once there is the supply goes down, the natural thing that will happen is that the price increases, and when the consumer feels it in their bellies, then we have conversations like these.
Right. Now, Pandit, are we seeing a decrease in any of the essential veggies? Like, are we seeing, because of the flooding, is it that we wouldn't see certain crops on the market? And then using supply and demand, is it that because the supply is low, are we going to then see an increase on these, the ones that we finally get?
Yeah, obviously, there's going to be a decrease in some of the things that you see. More importantly, there's going to be a decrease in what you can afford. Um, Depending on where the crops come out from, those that are close to the ground that may go underwater, like lettuce and so on. I know there's a shortage. Cauliflower is one of the plants that we've been having a problem with acquiring seeds and seedlings. So there is also that supply and demand part of being able to get seeds that will uh, bring good yield, and we've been discussing that with the minister. We were discussing with the previous minister, Mr. Clarence Amrat. We're also in discussion with the current minister, Mr. Kazim Hussein, as to problem we've been having with seed shortage, getting seedlings into Trinidad. There's the issue of forex. There's so many things affecting how plants become cultivatable to get to the garden and get to your plate. Your plate is the final destination, of course, but we need to get seeds in. We need to have land to cultivate, and we need to have at least some sort of protection from the weather. We can rely on drainage and so on. So yes, there's always going to be that problem is a perennial problem. It's always going to exist unless we see government um, taking some kind of proactive measures to really be serious about not just distributing land to people to plant, but making sure that that land is accessible, that it has proper drainage, that there are proper marketing facilities, and so on. So the host of problems that we have that will drive up prices and drive down supply, which would mean that there'll be some things you wouldn't get, you can have a shortage of, and you may not be able to afford because your budget doesn't allow for it.
Right. Now, in terms of the seeds, Pundit, because I am hearing a lot of the farmers associations saying that they aren't getting certain seedlings, but then locally we see some foundations or associations actually doing those seedling drives. So is it that the seeds that you need are not available in the seedling drive? Because I know that, for example, Shaw Foundation or Shaw TT, they usually do a seedling drive and they give out seeds. So is it that the farmers get their seeds from another place?
Again, I'm not sure where Shaw Foundation gets there. You see, we are in the business of farming, and so a kitchen garden and acres of farm are really two different things. One or two seedlings, that's fine. It's good. We're not sure what the yield is, what brand they're bringing, and things like that, and the germination process, because we've had problems in the past where um, we've gotten seedlings and the farmer doesn't have. I want people to understand that the farmer is a businessman. And when he buys his seedlings from a seedling supplier, they get their seeds from some foreign supplier as well. We don't get a refund or a rebate when our plants do not bear fruits or bear the amount of expected fruits, or even we've had instances where the cauliflower or the lettuce simply didn't do what it was supposed to do, and the yield was so poor, the poundage was so poor. Farmers really didn't make back their money. I want people to understand what really goes into a crop. I mean, you have to get seedlings. You have to literally do this thing for 3 months, 4 months before you start producing goods that you take to market. And when you take it to market, there is no fixed price. There's no guaranteed price. Or we've often heard that conversation that we should have fixed prices and so on for plants or products or produce, but it doesn't go past that because everybody seems to enjoy the open market. When there's a glut, everyone benefits except the farmer.
Yeah.
So the reality is that we have to really look at the prices that we pay for seeds and seedlings, of course, and we have to look at and this is where government has to come in. Now, I'm not just talking about subsidies, but I'm talking about some sort of guarantee that the seeds being imported are of a good quality that we can expect bountiful yields.
Right. Now, Pundit, I have two questions I want to get in quickly. I know that some farmers are also talking about the prices of the fertilizer, and I know one of the associations was saying urea, for example, is locally produced, but of course it is expensive. How do you respond to this? Is it that the farmers are also seeing an increase in the cost of fertilizers?
We have seen an increase in the cost of fertilizer. I think one particular, if I'm not mistaken this morning, one particular fertilizer went to $500 a bag. Um, Again, the amount of we put into the product, I don't think there is another community that creates uh, a product or produce like a farmer, and then they're not allowed to fix the price. Unfortunately, it is an open market system, and the cost of production is high. Again, we've been having this conversation. Shipping has gone up, production has gone up, supply, worldwide supply is at an all-time high, and Trinidad is not on the front burner anywhere to get anything, as we would have realized even with vaccines. So it's a sad thing that we are a small island state, and this is where government really has to come in and be the facilitator and look very seriously at subsidies. Now, there's another thing that affects. While you can get subsidies for certain items, smaller farmers who may have the farming skill and who may not possess land that they own or land that they're able to get a rental receipt from, are not entitled to subsidies. And you find that these small farmers continue to take the brunt of uh, the beating when it comes to the cost of production.
Right.
So yes, subsidies fertilizers continue to be a cause for concern, and again, we're calling on government to help us to access fertilizer at affordable prices.
Of course. And Pandit, we have about 1 minute left, but final question. Can the public expect to see an increase in the price of produce in the coming days or in the coming months?
Well, I mean, as much as you can rely on your weather personnel to predict the weather, that will give you an indicator of what's going to happen because there's been little or no work in drainage, and there's been little or no work in um, helping the farmers to bring their lands under cultivation, and there's been little or no work in distribution of land for cultivation for farmers. Farmers are not we're not playing kitchen garden. We're very serious people, and we are in the business of feeding the nation. So once there is rain, you can almost rest assured that next week goods are going to go up. And I just want to say something quite quickly. Um, it was publicized on social media and so on, and the food chain apologized. But we really have to take a serious look at how much these large supermarkets and so on charge and their markup for certain items. I mean, once it's a mistake, twice maybe, but three times and four times, I think it's getting a little iffy as to whether they're practicing price gouging. And I want to recommend that you go to the farmers market and you get a little. You go to the markets or you go to the market sheds and purchase your fresh produce from there. And if you with a supermarket chain that you're comfortable with and you feel that they're not digging out your eyes because they're providing a service and it takes a little bit more for them take care of their goods and so on, then go ahead and buy from them. So once again, thank you very much for the opportunity
Of course. Thank you,
to be on
Pundit.
the program and to ventilate the matter. I hope this sort of goes the government into getting Ministry of Works to getting off their laurels and making sure the water courses are clear. In Trinidad, we have a history of trying to fix things after they've happened. I just want to remind
The authorities and the ministries to do what they need to do. Of course. Thank you so much, Pundit.
Just a gentle reminder, the rainy season comes every year.
Of course. Thank you so much, Pundit Maharaj. Thank you so much for joining us and just sharing, a bit about how the adverse weather is affecting the farmers. Thank you so much. And that was President of the United Farmers Association, Pundit Satyanand Maharaj, just sharing, of course, his view on how the adverse weather and what we need to do if we need to get those food prices down. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.